As a preliminary matter, I am Brian Colleran, Chair of the Newberry Conservation Commission. Permit me to confirm that all members are present and can hear me. Conservation Commission members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Ben Gahagan.
Yes.
Dan Streeter.
Yes.
Mary Rimmer.
Yes.
Frank and Peter are not here. Town staff, when I call your name, Samantha Holt.
Yes.
Great, and I obviously can hear myself. So, good evening. This May 3rd, 2022 open meeting of the Newberry Conservation Commission is being conducted remotely, consistent with the act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, which extends the governor's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law until July 15, 2022. This order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location and allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. Please note that the meeting is being recorded and that attendees are participating by video and or telephone conference, and the recording will be available on the Newberry Access YouTube channel. Meeting materials were provided to the commission members prior to the meeting for review and were posted to the Conservation Commission webpage for public access. Applicants or their representatives may be called upon to speak and, if needed, share information to the screen. Please state your intention to do so after you've been called. Before we turn to the first item on the agenda, permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I, as chair, will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After speakers conclude their remarks, I'll go down the list of commission members, inviting each by name to provide any comment, question, or motion. Please hold until your name is called. For all attendees except commission members and staff, please remember to mute your computer or your phone, which is *6 on your phone, to mute or unmute when you're not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate meeting minutes. Please be aware that video participants can see you and that you should take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. For any response, please wait until I yield the floor to you and state your name before speaking. If commission members wish to engage in discussion with other members, please do so through me, taking care to identify yourself when you wish to speak. Regarding public comment, there will be an opportunity for public comment and questions during public hearings. After commission members have spoken, we will afford the public an opportunity to comment and or ask questions as follows. Samantha will seek questions and comments through Zoom's raise hand function. Video conference participants, to raise your hand, hover over the bottom of the Zoom window below the photo gallery and click on the yellow hand that appears. If you don't see a yellow hand, click on the participants button. A list of participants will open and display on the right. At the bottom of the participant area, you will see an option to click on a raise hand button. Please ensure your name is fully and correctly displayed on the participant list. You may rename yourself by using the more function next to your name. Telephone participants, to raise your hand in a Zoom meeting, hit *9 on your phone's keypad. We will then allow questions and comments from members of the public who have raised their hands in the order in which they are listed, which is determined by the order in which people click on the raise hand function. Each participant will be called on to provide his or her name or address and then ask a question or make a comment. I will afford the applicant or participant or their rep the opportunity to reply. Your hand will be lowered when you've been given the floor for your question. We will then continue down the list of those in the raise hand column and again afford the participant, applicant, or rep an opportunity to speak. Please note that the chat feature has been disabled for the meeting. Please also note that everyone is expected to conduct themselves in the same manner they would at an in-person meeting. Any disruptions will be addressed once by the chair and should be acknowledged by the disruptor. Any further disruptions will result in complete removal from the meeting with no readmittance. Vulgar or obscene action or comment will result in immediate removal from the meeting with no readmittance. Finally, each vote taken in the meeting will be conducted by roll call vote. All right, thank you, everybody. There's the script. Let's have a look at our agenda. What are we doing first? So our next regularly scheduled meeting dates are May 17th and June 7th. We have an upcoming special meeting date on June 21st, and we have minutes for March 15th, April 5th, and April 19th. Okay, did anybody get a chance to look at the minutes and offer any feedback? Nice one, Mary. Go ahead. You got a.
I thought they were great. I think Sam did a great job on the minutes.
Great. Seeing that nobody else is saying anything about it, Mary, do you want to?
I make a motion that we accept the minutes of March 15th, April 5th, and April 19th.
Okay,
Second.
all right, thank you, Dan. Roll call, Ben,
Yep.
Dan,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes.
and I will also vote yes. Okay, thank you. Next up, we're going to start our public hearings. We have Peter Fippen from MVPC in the Newberry Salt Marsh in various locations. We have a file number of NCC 394. This is a request for determination of applicability for work to control common reed, Phragmites australis, throughout the salt marshes of Newberry, including the Plum Creek area, the salt marshes to the south of the Plum Island Turnpike Bridge, and those located along the Parker and Mill Rivers. All right, Pete, the floor is yours.
So this is something, I think this is our third RDA we're going for in Newberry, and probably our, I don't know, 10th or 12th RDA in the Great Marsh, including Salisbury, Newburyport, Newberry, and Rowley, all for doing treatments in the Great Marsh of open marsh, high marsh Phragmites. We're not doing work on the upland edge. We're only doing treating Phragmites, backpack treatments this time around in the marsh. We've reduced the amount of Phragmites in all of the marshes that we don't require a marsh master any longer, which a marsh master is a low ground pressure tracked vehicle that accesses the marsh quite easily and has the capability of treating larger stands, the high density stands. We're down to maintenance treatments now in Newberry and the rest of the Great Marsh, where we can just access it by foot and by boat with backpack treatments. Generally, they're not really stands. They're areas where the Phragmites roots are regenerating a bit. So there might be 10 stems or 30 stems or 50 stems. And so we'll attack those individually. Probably in Newberry, there might be close to 100 of these locations, and we're trying to reduce it down so that we can truly do maintenance treatments, which would be maybe every third year to go out there just to keep it from spreading and proliferating. But for the most part, the Phragmites is highly reduced. I don't know if people remember 10, 12 years ago, there were hundreds of stands, maybe quarter to half acre in size, all throughout the northern end of the Newberry Marsh. If you looked over south from the Plum Island Turnpike down, you'd see hundreds of these stands, and we've reduced it down to, you really can't see them unless you're up upon them. We use Polaris. We work closely with the Wildlife Refuge. As a matter of fact, they generally manage our sprayers and our chemicals for us. We work with them closely. We do a lot of treatments on their property. Prior to this round, and this is funded through a grant, a Hurricane Sandy National Fish and Wildlife Foundation grant. Prior to the start of this grant in 2018, we met with MIPA to go over our procedures and process, and they didn't require us to do anything at all other than to just do what we're doing. So, and of course we follow the label instructions and only treat, only spray when conditions are sufficient, not during rain events, not prior to rain events, not after rain events, not when it's over a 10-mile-an-hour wind and all those types of restrictions. We also have a monitoring program that we've been doing for a few years now, where we go out to, I mean, first of all, we were looking at the effectiveness of our treatments, and it was early on very clear that the treatments were quite effective. So we converted those effective stations into monitoring stations and established some other monitoring stations to look at what comes back after we treat the Phragmites. We want to see how rapidly and what type of vegetation was returning, and it's quite remarkable actually how quickly the native vegetation will regenerate in the locations that we've been monitoring. So with that, I guess, any questions?
Great. Thanks, Peter. Dan?
I got no, this sounds great. You know, keep doing it.
Yeah, this will probably be our last year of the annual treatments. You know, we're searching for additional funding for doing the more relaxed maintenance treatments in the future, but you know, right now that grant funding is running out, and this will be the last year when we do it. We generally do it in September and early October before the first frost is, you know, that's when the plant pulls its nutrients down into its roots, and that's how you effectively kill it the best. So it's all, you know, foliage treatments, and been quite effective, as I mentioned.
Great. Sorry, Ben, I gave the best looking guy on the call the dibs today, so I might have to skip you once in a while. Dan is distractingly beautiful this evening. You want to say anything, Ben?
No, I got nothing on any of that. You're all totally right. Go ahead every time.
Thank you.
Okay. Mary?
Yeah, I had a bunch of questions, but Peter, you answered them all, so that's great. I just a couple more. When do you decide when to do an RDA? Is it when you have a new site, or it's each year?
It's each. They're good for 3 years, right? So every third year we.
Every time you have to upgrade. Okay. To new year.
Yep.
And do you rotate your herbicides, or you're only using the?
We're only using Polaris. We were using Mazapure. Glyphosate early on, but then, you know, in conjunction with the Refuge and Audubon, we switched over to Polaris, which they thought was a better chemical to use. I mean, we were following their lead for the most part, and so we still are.
And are your results available? Like your monitoring results?
Yeah, in draft form, I can get you some of the. I put a PowerPoint together that I presented about. I don't know, in the fall, sometime after this last round, and I can get you that PowerPoint and you can take a look at it.
I'd love to see it. Yeah, thanks.
You know, the full results won't be completed until we finish this next season's treatments.
And is there any intention to go after landward stands, shoreline stands?
You know, we've talked about it. It's a daunting task. In some cases, there's been a little bit of that, as you know, early on when we were using the Marsh Master, when they would access the marsh, they might capture some of the bigger stands right along the edge. But it's just, you know, a huge effort. I mean, you don't know where to start or where to end. And what we really wanted to do was try to preserve the open marsh habitat more so than the upland edge. You know, our feeling is that the upland edge is somewhat self-limiting because that particular Phragmites strain will only grow down into the marsh so far. It's sort of self-limiting because of the salt water. And you can see that, you know, it's much thicker on the edge. As it gets into the marsh, it gets thinner and shorter. It doesn't seem to be a threat to move out into the marsh fully. And also, there's been some studies that show that, you know, Phragmites along the upland edge is a good buffer for storm surge. So, you know, it's a protective measure as well. Out in the main marsh, the big stands of Phragmites over time tend to break up the marsh because the roots are so dense and so prolific that they start to break the marsh up. So it's a little bit different there. And, you know, that's why, one of the reasons why we're really trying to get it more aggressively.
Awesome. Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, my only question just builds off of the answer you started there. Do you know why, like, how many have you done any genetics on these? I mean, the strains are behaving differently.
There
Is there any-
have been some studies. We started one and it just sort of fell apart. We couldn't get enough funding for it, but supposedly they are merging the different strains of Phragmites, and so that the seeds now are potentially far more viable than they were at one point. 20 years ago, they were thinking that they were about 2% viability. Now they're thinking it's closer to 10 to 15%. And that's just because they're cross pollinating, for lack of a better word, with each other. And they're all just slightly different, coming from different types of habitats. But no, you know, we really didn't get too far with that. We talked about it, we started it, we went after some funding, and it sort of faded away.
Yeah, just because your answer to Mary's question about, you know, it stopped, right? The question just becomes, how long will that last until?
Right. You know, and the theory is that how it got out into the open marsh was that, you know, the tidal ranges are cyclical. So, you know, it's periodically there are lower high tides and sometimes higher high tides. And that's sort of a cyclical event. And if you couple lower high tides with high rainfall, you're going to get Phragmites being able to colonize a little bit. And once it gets out in there, because of the way it develops thatch and such, it can capture its own fresh water and proliferate. And then I think it sort of modifies and becomes more secure in the salt water. And, you know, in a lot of these locations, we looked into looking at pore water salinity to see if there was any sort of connection between pore water salinity and Phragmites density. And because, you know, early on, we didn't have a lot of money and we were just getting money piecemeal from this grant and that grant, and we wanted to prioritize where we wanted to go. And really, we couldn't find any relationship between pore water salinity and Phragmites density. There was some work done by UNH to look at ground penetrating radar and be able to see conductivity, and that was a little bit more helpful so that we could try to identify where Phragmites might become thicker, and those would be the areas that we would want to treat first. But then we got the Sandy grant, which was allowed us to treat the entire open marsh Phragmites in the Great Marsh, so we didn't need to worry about that anymore, and that's where we're at now.
Okay, great, thanks for that. Let me, I'm presuming you guys are all good, so let's see if there's anybody in the public. Any hands up, anybody waving at the camera who wants to chime in here? Once, going twice. Okay, no public comment. So anyone want to make a motion on this one?
I make a motion to issue a negative determination of applicability.
Second.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Ben. Roll call. Ben.
Aye.
Dan.
Yes.
Mary.
Yes, and great work, Peter.
Thank you.
Yes, and I will also vote yes with a polite golf clap and a thank you.
Thank you. That was, we had town meeting, you know, I'm selectman in Essex. We had a town meeting last night, and this was so nice and easy to go this route than last night's 4-hour session. So thank you for that. I did not want to have to go through any controversy. Thank you, guys. So the next step is Samantha will get you to sign it all, and then it goes into DEP and such. All right, perfect. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
All right. You too. Where's my agenda? Next up, we have Mass DOT Aeronautics, 24 Plum Island Turnpike, Plum Island Airport, file NCC 395, request for determination of applicability for work to resurface the existing paved runway. Oh, all right. Sam, who's here for this one?
I am Brent. It's James Matz. Evening, everybody. My name is James Matz. I'm the Senior Environmental Analyst for MassDOT Aeronautics. I'm the MassDOT rep here this evening. I'm here tonight to make a brief presentation on our proposed pavement maintenance project at Plum Island Airport and to request the determination of applicability to the Wetlands Protection Act. I'll rely on Samantha to share the screen. I admitted to her that I'm not very good with sharing screen on Zoom. So here's our first slide here. Again, I'm making the introduction of the project. And again, this is about a pavement maintenance project at Plum Island Airport. Next slide, please. Thank you. So here's our scope of work. It's on 2 pages here. So this is called cold in place recycling of runway pavement. And so the existing pavement will be milled down to a depth of 4 inches. And the millings will be temporarily stockpiled on the pavement next to the administration building. And it'll be, the stockpile will be generated. It'll be borrowed from over a course of 3 days. So as it says in the second bullet, this is only a project that runs 3 days. The fresh millings are blended together with fresh asphalt. And then the new asphalt pavement is placed over the new blended, what's called base layer. So again, we're milling off 4 inches, we're blending it, and we're putting on a fresh new overlay. And then once the overlay is complete, then we put on the new pavement markings will be applied to the new asphalt pavement. Next slide, please. Second task. So this will become more apparent in the site plan and the pictures that will immediately follow. But there's a removal of historic pavement that I spoke to Samantha about. So along the southern edge of the current runway that trends west to east, again, this is only the paved runway. We're not talking about the grass runway in this project in any way. So there's an old historic pavement. It's kind of a sandy matrix with binder. It's discontinuous. Maybe it's a 1/2 inch to 1 inch thick. And so what we'd like to propose, or proposing tonight under this project, since we have the machines on site, is to remove this 1/2 inch to 1 inch thick historic pavement, loam it, replace it with loam, and then a native seed, or I should say grass seed that's native to that area and to that grassland. Next slide, please. So environmental protections. MassDOT Aeronautics will require the contractor to stake Mass DOT standard 8-inch diameter straw wattles that surround the work areas located within the buffer zone and to protect the adjacent grassland. Where is the buffer zone? As you'll see in the site plan, it's primarily on the eastern end of the runway and kind of along the southern perimeter of the runway. No work or vehicle parking will be conducted in the grassland, except at the intersection of the runway where we may need to adjust the grades. I'll show you that on the site plan. The schedule. The work is tentatively scheduled to occur over a 3 to 4 day period in late June. That's our current schedule. MassDOT Aeronautics, I'll provide Samantha at least 7 days notice in advance of our start date. Again, we propose this to be the end of June. We cannot do this during inclement weather. Producing asphalt binder during a rain event will not work, which is a good thing, actually. So I'll do my best to give Samantha at least 24 hours notice if for some reason we have a hiccup in the schedule and we're not going to be on site that day. I'll be the primary contact for the duration of the project. And again, the schedule of the project is expected to be 3 to 4 days. Next slide, please. Whoops, what happened here? The site plan and the pictures disappeared. Uh-oh. What happened? Yikes. There we go. All right, thank you, Samantha. So let's talk about the project here in site plan view. So the limits of the work are again, only the paved runway. So to the left, to the west, you can see the taxiway, which is paved, exiting or entering from the parking lot at the administration building. That will be milled and upgraded. The entire length of the paved runway from west to east or east to west, along with the existing pavement, which is the intersection with the grass runway. Again, this is a pavement maintenance project of existing pavement. No work will be done on the grass runway. And again, very minimal soil disturbance is expected. I show here to the east of the admin building where the temporary stockpile of the millings will be staged. On the southern edge of the runway in the green, it's a green thin line, where that historic pavement is, we propose to remove, replace with loam and native seed. Where the red outline is where we're putting our environmental controls, and to be conservative, even if that section of the runway is not within the buffer zone, again, for overall protection of the buffer zone and the surrounding grassland, to be conservative, where you see the red line is where we're going to put the environmental protections, which again is the 8-inch diameter Mass DOT straw wattles. Next slide, please. So just buzz through a couple pictures here. It's a lovely area. Gosh, when I pulled up, I got out of my truck, a fox crossed the runway, and there was a coyote on the other end of the runway who was just staring at me. So it's just a really lovely place, as we know. So view of Plum Island Airport looking generally to the southeast towards the Great Marsh. And I didn't mention it, but I understand, of course, that this area, not only we're talking about buffer zone, but the airport property, I'd say at least 2/3 of the paved runway is located within the ACEC, within the town of Newberry, which is known as the ACEC for the Great Marsh. As we know, a portion of the grass strip, the northwest trending section, is located in the town of Newburyport. And although not specifically located in the ACEC, the project is of the paved runway, for the majority of it, is located within the ACEC. Thank you. So next slide, please. So view looking generally east from runway 28. So this is looking down the east end. The gravel that you see at the end, the pavement there beyond the stripes, is not going to be replaced. That's what's called kind of the emergency stop area in the unlikely event, hopefully, that's needed. So we're not replacing that. What we're replacing is where the stripes begin back towards the west, towards runway 10. Next slide, please. And so a view looking west. So here you see that, note the historic pavement to the left, which runs along a portion of the southern edge of the existing pavement. It's discontinuous. It's 3 to 5 feet wide. It's cracked. It's a 1/2 inch to 1 inch thick. Again, as part of this project, we propose to remove this, replace it with loam and native grass seed. Next slide, please. And then this is a picture of the paved parking lot on the east side of the administration building. This will be for temporary stockpiling of the millings. This area, although on pavement, will be surrounded by the Mass DOT 8-inch diameter straw wattles. There is good clearance driveway around the administration building for small dump trucks and front end loaders to pass. So there should be no reason for any of the millings that are being temporarily staged here to have to cross over onto Plum Island Turnpike. Next slide, please. Thank you. And this is our last slide. So thank you for your patience. So this is our support here, supporting information for our opinion of what should be a negative determination of applicability to the Wetlands Protection Act. The work consists of maintenance or replacement of the runway pavement and a portion of the taxiway at Plum Island Airport. Again, a maintenance project. The work does not consist of new runway or runway expansion, and the pavement will be in the existing footprint. So we're not doing anything new here. No work will be conducted within a resource area, and portions of the work will be conducted solely within the buffer zone of the inland and coastal wetlands. Removal of thin historic paved runway abutting the existing runway will reduce impervious surface and we believe improve adjacent grassland. And in accordance with the regulations, the work will be conducted in a manner so as to reduce the potential for any adverse impacts of the buffer zone and adjacent grassland during construction, and with post-construction measures implemented to stabilize any disturbed areas, such as the placement of loam and native grass seed mix. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you very much for your time tonight. And I'll now turn things back over to Chairman.
All right, great. Thank you. That was very thorough. Let's go to the commission. Benjamin?
Yep, great presentation. Thank you very much. The only question I had, and I guess I'll poke at it a little bit more, but you kind of covered it, is that emergency area at the eastern end of the strip. So just going to let that be, but is there any point in the future that DOT foresees needing to do maintenance on that?
No, that's really kind of maintained as a stony gravel, even if that's thin asphalt. It's maintained that way. So we don't have plans to change that or alter that from its existing condition. And I apologize, it's also exists on the west side, west end of the runway as well. So if I didn't say that, I apologize for missing that. So MassDOT does not have any plans to upgrade or alter either end.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that's all I had. Otherwise, I agree with that summary slide, and this is where I was before the summary slide came up. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ben.
All right, Daniel?
The only question I have is the millings or the material you're removing from the southern edge of the runway down the eastern end. That's going to be just taken off site, disposed of somewhere.
Yes, sir, Dan. It's going to be taken. I'm sorry. That's a great question. I missed that. That's going to be taken off site and shipped to an asphalt recycling plant. Yes. Will not be left on site. Great question. Thank you.
All right. I think that does it for me. Thanks.
Okay, Mary?
You're on mute, Mary.
Thank you. I might have missed it, but was there a wetland delineation that was done for this project? I didn't see whether it was flagged. I know there's wetland near the runway, but were you relying on?
We did not do a delineation. I mean, we followed the previous delineation done, frankly, several years ago.
Okay.
Upon my site visits, I didn't see any substantial change from that previous delineation. So again, I'm confident that we have the wetland boundaries still adequately delineated. And again, nonetheless, to be conservative, because we want to protect the buffer zone and the surrounding grassland, we're still going to install the erosional controls, that being the straw wattles. So.
Do you know how long ago that delineation was done?
I'll go with several years or more.
Several years or more. Okay. And because you're working within a limited area, it's not critical. I just was curious if there was actually a delineation done, or if you were relying on MassGIS data or some other source for your wetland.
Well, I'm
boundary.
relying on MassGIS data and the good folks at Fish and Wildlife, who are able to give me accurate resource boundaries, particularly.
Okay.
Well, I shouldn't say for the ACs. I was going to say for the ACEC. Well, you know, the most of the paved runway lies, you know, within the ACEC. But I did rely on MassGIS and the folks at Fish and Wildlife to give me accurate boundaries. So I'm confident that although the wetland has not been delineated in several years, that I believe that we have accurate boundaries established.
Right. Well, where you're only working in the paved area, it's not so critical. I think any decision that we issue might want to note that we're not approving the wetland boundary, because it wouldn't necessarily be up to date. But my other point was that not all the resources are identified. You are actually in land subject to coastal storm flowage that covers the entire runway, which is a resource. So you're not entirely in the buffer zone, you're actually in a resource. There isn't any performance standards currently, although there will be soon, but there aren't any performance standards for that resource. So that's not necessarily an issue. And then my only other comment had to do with, just raising the issue about stormwater management. And probably not practical for the existing runway. Don't know if there's any existing stormwater management for the parking area, or if there's any opportunities to upgrade stormwater management for the parking area as part of this project.
There are no plans to upgrade existing stormwater management during this project. I don't have any answers to, are there any projects on the books in the near future? But I can certainly ask our engineering department and get back to you on that.
Good, Mary? I kind of expected.
Yeah, I'll
another
pass it off to you
audience.
on that one.
All right, well, I was expecting you to ask about a species list.
Ask about what?
I thought you were going to ask what the species list was going to be for the grass seed.
Oh,
I can provide the tags. I mean, I was going to say the wetland grass seed mix. So to me, it should be a combination of both wetland and upland. And so I could provide the tags for that. I'm not the grass seed guy, but certainly I've done enough of these projects, restoration projects. I'd be more than happy to provide the bag tags, as they call them, before we actually put down the seed mix.
Okay. And then the other comment I had was regarding the erosion control. Can we swap out the hay for compost?
Oh, it's not hay. We don't use hay. It's straw wattles. We never use hay because we know it goes to seed. We can do compost, of course.
Okay.
In lieu of straw, right, Dan? Brian, I'm sorry.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
All right. So compost in lieu of straw. Not a problem.
All right.
given
So
that hay
then,
is now $15 a bale, it might be more economical.
Yeah, but we don't, but MassDOT doesn't use hay. We don't use hay bales. We use straw wattles and silt fence when we need to. So, or compost, and it varies down the town. So, but hay goes to seed and we just, I think it's a good choice not to use it anymore. Goes to seed and becomes invasive.
Exactly. So then turning back to Mary's point about the delineations, does anybody want to hold this up over that, or do we just want to sort of get the information after the fact?
I don't think it's going to matter for this project, the delineation, even if it comes right up to the edge of the runway. We've got the erosion control in. I just wanted to have it on the record that we wouldn't specifically be approving it so that it doesn't get extended for another 3 years, that somebody can say, we've got an approved boundary. You know what I mean?
Right, and I'm not expecting an approved boundary for
Right,
this project,
right.
just to be clear. But we understand.
My main concern has more to do with the existing parking lot and whether or not the upgrade to the parking lot triggers stormwater management. And I think, is it a gravel lot now, or is it pavement?
It's pavement. It's
It is
not great
paved.
pavement, but it's pavement. Again, it's not we're not doing an upgrade to the parking lot. We're doing an upgrade to the taxiway that runs from the
Right.
parking lot. So we're not touching the parking lot.
You're not going to do any improvements to the parking lot?
No,
Okay, I thought you were going to repave the parking too. Okay.
no,
Thank you.
no.
All right,
Okay.
thank you.
In case, turn to the public. Anybody want to raise their hand or wave frantically at the screen because they can't find the button to raise their hand? Going once, going twice.
I am not seeing anything.
Okay, thank you, Sam. Sam, I should check with you too. Do you want to add anything to that?
Nope, I'm good. I chatted with James about this when he was looking at doing the submittal, and I didn't really have any concerns about it where it's all, they're not doing any expansion or anything, so.
Okay. Thank you, Sam. In that case, does anybody want to make a motion? You're muted, Mary.
Sorry, I've been sneezing, so I keep muting it. I make a motion to issue a negative determination of applicability.
I'll second.
Okay. Thank you, Ben. And All right, roll call vote. Ben,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes.
and I will also vote yes. Okay, great. We'll look forward to seeing the species list and getting the update when you get around to it, so to speak.
All right, great. Thank you very much, everybody, for your time. Great questions tonight. Thank you. It helped me sharpen myself up. And I really enjoyed coming back to Newberry and Plum Island. It's one of my favorite places in the world. I mean that honestly and truly. And before I started my site visit several weeks ago, I actually drove over to Plum Island up and down to kind of reminisce. So I used to it's kind of like one of my old haunts way back in the day. So it's just really nice to come back. So great to see everybody. Stay safe, be well, and have a good summer. And Samantha will be talking to you as we get closer.
Great, thanks, and I'm
Thank
glad
you,
you
everybody.
enjoyed.
Have a great night.
All right, so next thing up, we have John Glazebrook, 16 6th Street, DEP 050-1381, and notice of intent for work to install a deck and complete partial upward expansion to the existing single-family home. All right, who do we have for this one, Samantha? Oh, there we go, Mr. Glazebrook, there we go. Shauna. You might be muted. Or your volume's really low, maybe.
I just think his mic's not working. Is Sam, is he also the Tiger Mobile 58?
Fine.
Oh.
Yeah, can you guys hear me through the phone?
Yeah, now you're coming
Yeah,
in.
Sorry. So what? Everybody can hear me right now, right?
Yeah, you'll need to speak up.
Will do. I'll hold this up here. So, all right. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Okay.
Go
Great.
ahead, the floor is yours.
Great. Yes, I am doing a notice of intent to do a upper expansion. Not raising the roof line at all, but adding a bedroom to my home and a deck out off the front. Relatively small addition. Sorry, I'm not really familiar with the process and I don't have a big presentation, so I apologize for fumbling through this a little bit. Samantha, I know everybody has copies of the plan, so I don't know if we typically go through them or if I just answer questions. I'm sorry. Please tell me what I need to do.
I think what we can do is we can turn it over to Sam, and Sam can walk us through your submission a little bit, and if we've got any questions about what she shows us, we can turn it back to you.
Thank you very much.
Great, perfect.
Quick second. And I will
Sam,
get-
can you do that? We need to, okay, good.
All right. Make this a little bit smaller. So I'm not really sure if I can turn these around or not, so you can actually see him. But basically what he's doing is he's just getting, he's going to be adding a deck right, I believe it's right about here.
Sam, I have it up on my computer rotated. You want to?
Okay, yeah, that might be a little bit easier for you to do it. I will leave that up to you. Sorry, I'm working off of an unfamiliar laptop right now, so.
No worry. Everybody can see this?
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, so he's going to be adding a deck over the existing driveway. So it's not, as far as I can kind of tell, there's not really going to be any impact to a lot of vegetation or anything. And then the roof is just kind of being like extended off to one side. He's already been, he's talked to the building commissioner and everything about everything that he's doing. He does not need to go through a zoning process. He's all set on that front. It doesn't trigger any of the zoning review or anything. So that's all set. So we're really only just here for for the conservation stuff. It's a, from what I can tell, it's a pretty minimal impact. The upward expansion likely is just going to be like some scaffolding or something to get people up onto the roof. And then just the material staging and everything, which I believe, Jack, you said that they would be able to stage everything like kind of in the driveway area, right?
Yeah, I have a very large driveway. I don't know if you have those pictures, but honestly, there wasn't a great one of the driveway. So if there's a dumpster necessary, plenty of room in the driveway. I've at least 6 or 7 cars worth of parking in there. So we won't be here. So it'll just be a truck and like a dumpster if they need it there. So yeah, nothing will be on the grass.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, and I believe from what I recall of the pictures, which they are in the Dropbox as well, the photos of the property, I believe it's all like lawn grass and stuff. I don't think there's any dune or anything. And I think this one's actually, I believe this is actually in Zone X. So I think I don't believe there's an issue with the floodplain on this one. I think we looked into that when you were in the
Both of
office.
both of those things are correct. I am in Zone X, and I have no beach. I have no beach grass. It's all just like standard lawn grass.
Yep.
Okay. Great. In that case, let's go around the horn. Ben, you have any questions about this one?
I do not.
There you go. Okay. Daniel?
I just want to make sure I've heard things correctly, that there's no change in vegetation. Everything is either above existing structure or driveway, or there's no ground concerns here at all. Is that correct?
So if you can look at the picture in the upper left, where there's like a gully kind of where it goes down to the bottom. So
Yep.
there'll be a post that goes in the ground. So like a 12-inch auger post that'll go into the ground, and then like a cement piling for like a corner of the deck, but the rest of it will all be on the driveway. So that small section will go into my grass, but that's the only impact, I believe.
I have no further questions.
Okay. Mary?
I noticed, to follow up on Dan's, that piling shouldn't be a sonotube, so I guess whatever our standard condition is, that it be a compliant piling, I would recommend. So that's diamond pier or steel pile, or what are our options there? Sam, do you know?
I'm not sure. The steel and diamond pier are the only two that I can think of off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Um,
So just no concrete
Okay.
is what the requirement is.
and I can actually add that in. I don't believe that that's a standard condition for construction on Plum Island. So I can add that one in as a special excuse me, a special condition.
Yeah, since that's what we've been requiring, or at least the plans have been showing that. So we haven't had to make it a condition because the plans have been updated to show those for previous projects. That's all I had. Thank you.
Okay. And then my questions, I think, Sam, are more for you. There's the deck. Is it all over the driveway, or does it go over the yard a little bit? The one that extends over the driveway that was mentioned?
Sam, do you want me to answer that?
Yeah, you can go ahead.
Sure. So if you look on the left side, there's like an existing stairway that comes out right now, which you can just see if the upper picture kind of shows a little bit better, you can just see the bottom of the stairs. So it'll come out over where those stairs are existing right now. They're concrete stairs. So that'll be covered. And then there'll be like a piling that goes right in the corner right next to it. So it's going to come out over the grass by, I don't know, the stairs are about 6 feet, 3 or 4 feet, I would guess. And then the majority of it, like from there over, is all over driveway.
Okay. And then the other question related to that is, related to the construction. You got stage out of the driveway. There's no vehicular traffic out in the yard, right?
Oh, no. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Right.
Yeah, we wouldn't be able to get up there because of the embankment, the hill. Like you couldn't drive the car up there.
Right. Right. I assumed as much, but I just wanted to check. Okay, this seems pretty straightforward. Sam, what's the hand raising, the commentary from the public look like? You seen anything? I see your screen.
One second. I am not seeing anything on my end.
Okay. In that case, then, going back to the commission, does anybody want to make a motion on this?
I make a motion to close a public hearing and issue a positive order of conditions with the special conditions that there be no concrete piling, and we have pre-construction photographs, so post-construction photographs to document that the vegetation has been reestablished in the work area and the other standard Plum Island conditions.
Second.
Great. Thank you, Dan. Roll call. Ben,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Mary.
Yes.
And I will also vote in the affirmative. So, Mr. Glazebrook, Sam will loop you in on the paperwork, when she can. And otherwise, thank you, and good luck.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you, everybody.
All right, thanks. Good night. Next on our agenda, we have Nicolo and Rita DiStefano at 1 and 3 Main Street, DEP number 0501380, an abbreviated notice of resource area delineation to confirm delineations of bordering vegetated wetlands and an intermittent stream. What do we have for this one, Sam?
We have Greg Hoffman with us.
All right, Greg, go for it.
All right. Good evening, everyone. For the record, Greg Hockmuth from Williams and Sparagus, representing the applicant for the abbreviated notice of resource area delineation filed for 1, 3, and 3A Main Street. Would it be possible for me to share my screen? Okay.
Yeah, you should be able to.
All right. So can everybody see that?
Yes.
All right. So this property, it's really 3 parcels that together make up approximately 7.8 acres. It's located on Main Street. Number 1 Main Street is the existing house lot, which is this square here. And the house was built, according to the assessor, sometime in the 1700s. So it's a very, very old house. It's on the Georgetown Newberry Town line. And you've probably driven by it 100 times and noticed what looks like a pond in this location here. There's a culvert that goes underneath Main Street and eventually an intermittent stream that flows into the Parker River. USGS shows this as an isolated wetland here and an isolated wetland here. But the reality is they're connected via intermittent flow between the two. It's really wet down in this location, not as wet in the middle of the property, but it's all contiguous, all BVW. I originally flagged this wetland in 2018 for the prior owner. And we went back this past December to rewalk the line, make some adjustments, gather data for data forms, and to ultimately put together the ANRAD that's currently before you. I imagine the commission's going to want to schedule a site visit. So I don't want to take up too much of the time tonight, but I'd be happy to answer any questions the commission might have.
Okay, great. Thanks, Greg. Round the horn. Let's go backwards on this one. Mary, you want to go first?
No, just a site visit. I think we need to verify it. I don't know if Sam has had a chance to look at this at all. If she had any initial reactions.
I have not had a chance to get out there yet, no.
Okay.
All right. Daniel
No, nothing.
and Ben. Okay. In that case, let's all pull out our calendars. What's a good day, time, etc. I like Tuesdays personally.
Tuesdays are good.
When is
No,
our next
nothing?
meeting?
The
17th.
agenda.
Yes, our next meeting should be on the 17th.
17th. Okay. I can do early on on Tuesday, the 10th. Early. I have a 9:30 in North Andover, so. You're talking about
Like-
evening or morning? You said Tuesdays.
Either one. What do you mean by early?
Hmm?
What do you mean by early? Are you like a 7 a.m. or like a 4:30 p.m.? Which early?
7:30, 8 o'clock, something like that.
All right. Then Dan, any feeling about doing that? Ben, are you going to be like 8 hours into a fish run at that hour?
If I can make it, I'll make it. If I can't, I won't.
Fair enough.
We can do the
Um,
evening if that's better.
It just depends whether I have my kids or not, you know.
If we can try and do like closer to 8, I have another site walk on Scotland Road at 7 a.m. on Tuesday. So 7:30 might be a little bit tough, but we have to be out of there by 8. So
Yeah, 8 works for me.
Okay.
Does that work for you, Greg?
It does, and I want to poke around in that pond a little bit too. It hasn't been assessed to see whether or not it's functioning as a vernal pool, so we can look at that too.
Okay.
But it shouldn't take too long. It's a quick walk.
Dan, you good with this?
Yes,
Okay. All right. Looks like we got that. So we'll do 8 o'clock on the 10th, 8 a.m. on the 10th. Anybody from the public here for this one? Hands at the screen, yellow hands raised. I'm not seeing anything.
seeing any hands raised, and I'm not seeing anybody frantically trying to get attention.
Beautiful. All right. Let's call that good. So, Greg, I'm presuming you're asking for a formal continuance then?
We would like to request a continuance, please.
Beautiful. Motion from the board.
Motion to continue to May 17th with a site walk for May 10th at 8 a.m.
Thank you, Mary.
second,
Thank you, Dan. Roll call. Dan,
Yep.
Dan,
yes,
Mary.
Yes.
No, we'll vote yes. All right, cool.
See you
Thank you very
Tuesday.
much, everyone. Have a good night.
Thanks, Greg. Next on the agenda, where are we? Sorry, just lost track. There we are.
Martin Pitassi.
Martin Pitassi, 42 Middle Road, not yet with a DEP number. A notice of intent for work to construct a single-family home with septic and wetland crossings for driveway installation. Work will include restoration and mitigation. And who do we have here for 42 Middle?
Hello, this is Kristen Farr with Hancock Associates. I'm the project wetland scientist on this application for Martin Patassi. We had, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh,
go ahead. You're doing fine.
Okay. So we had a site visit a few weeks ago, and the wetland line was something that the commission was questioning. I think Mike Seecamp is on the call here. He was the one that did the delineation. I didn't know if he had anything you wanted to talk about. My understanding is that he has not been able to coordinate with Samantha yet to go out to the site.
Yeah, Mike is here. Actually, I just responded to his email today. Unfortunately, by the time I saw it on Thursday, I did not have a chance to get out there and chat with him. And I am not in the office at all this week. So I'm not going to be back in until Monday. So we have not gotten a chance to catch up on that.
Okay. So as far as that goes, I think that needs to happen before anything further can go on in the process. Mike, did you want to jump in at all?
Good evening, everyone. Mike Seecamp here. We just need to work it out in the field. It's not unusual for wetland scientists to disagree on wetland lines. I often had my lines reviewed by Mary Rimmer, and we've always been able to agree in the end. And I assume that I'll be able to do the same thing with Samantha. So looking forward to a site walk.
Okay, so with that, and that we don't have a DEP number yet, I'm going to request a continuance, please.
Hold that thought just for a second. Is there anybody in the audience here to speak to this one? Going once, going twice? No. Okay, great. So as you were saying, Kristen, we've got a request for a continuance on the table. Anybody like to make a motion?
I'll move to continue to May 17th.
Thank you, Ben.
And second,
Thank you, Daniel. Mary gets off the hook this one time. Roll call. Ben,
Yes.
Dan,
yes,
Mary,
Yes.
and I will also vote yes. Okay, great. Hopefully, Sam will work out and we'll pick this up the next time. So, what do we have next? James and George Simas, 5 Cinder Avenue, DEP file 050-1379. A notice of intent for the demolition of the existing single-story, single-family residential structure on a cinder block foundation and the construction of a new single-family residential structure on a pile foundation with associated site work. This is continued from the March 15th meeting. All right.
All right.
Here for this
So
one.
unfortunately, Matt from Millennium was unable to make it tonight. He did let me know. So we have some new files. He sent in a revision on the plans, I believe, like 2 or 3 weeks ago, maybe. I think they're dated for April 12th, I believe. And he believed that everything was addressed. There's a copy of the email from him outlining all the changes and everything. So like I said, unfortunately, he was unable to make it today. Looks like we do have one of the applicants in, if there is anything that anybody has any questions about. But Matt did say that if everybody is comfortable with it and there are no questions or issues outstanding, that he would be more than happy to let you guys vote on it tonight.
Fair enough. In that case, let's go around the horn as usual and see what people say, even though we don't have as much to work with, and hopefully we've all gone through the Dropbox. Daniel, anything on your mind?
no,
Okay. Oh, I did it again, out of alphabetical order. Ben,
You're muted, Ben.
you're muted.
I was just double checking thank you. I was just double checking the table to make sure Matt had everything updated, and it looks like he does, but other people can double check me, and the letter seemed to indicate that everything we asked for was addressed. So I don't think I have anything further, and I'd be willing to vote on it, I think, unless Mary or Dan caught something I missed, or Brian.
Thanks, Ben.
You're welcome, sir. You moderate, so it's like, is he moderating or voting or what?
Yeah, I never can tell either. It's fine. Mary, what do you see?
If I recall from the minutes from the last meeting that we discussed this, that there wasn't a DEP file number and there was an issue with the planting plan, I think, which was addressed, and the table on the plan. I don't remember there being anything else. And it appears that we have that information. So I think I'm good.
Yeah, and he
Yeah, I
added
think
some
you're
more
right.
shrubs. We weren't really happy with the shrubs, and he added some more. Looks like
Yeah.
choke cherry.
Yeah, I think you guys are right. Is this the one that had the knotweed that I was talking about? I don't see the pictures.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, so then
I'm
my
So
only
like
thing would
kind of
be,
overgrown.
yeah, in the special conditions, just to make sure the knotweed gets some, attention and we get rid of it. I don't see that marked in the notes anywhere in the plan set. Sam, you said the applicant was here?
Yes, it does look like George is here.
Yeah, I'm here, Brian.
There we go.
Hey, George. Hey, would you mind adding if we put that on the conditions just to kill the tall thing that looks a lot like bamboo?
Yeah, you know what? I'm out of my league on this one. So I know Matthew couldn't be here because of some prior commitment. I mean, if that's something that's pretty ordinary, absolutely.
Well, I mean, it's somewhere in between. Asking you to do little things like this is ordinary enough. That plant I've got a pet peeve, if you will.
Yeah. And
I
George,
don't,
you're
again, I'm out of my, I sell plumbing and heating, so I'm counting on you guys to give us the right guidance, and Matthew and the rest of our team to do the right thing. So whether it's a pet peeve personally, or if it's just something that we want to do all the right things is what it comes down to.
yeah, George, it's a highly invasive plant, and it's probably going to help you out in the long run, because if it continues to stay established on your property, it will just keep expanding and take over a lot of other things.
Then
And
we're
it
already
might
on the
impact
island
your
on
company.
Southern. We love it out there. We're going to make sure we're doing all the right things. So whatever you guys are supporting between Matthew, Samantha, I know we haven't met, but thanks for the help in the process. And yeah, happy to accommodate. Unless
Great.
Matthew comes
Thanks,
back to
George.
me tomorrow saying, why'd you agree with Brian? Because he has a pet peeve on that.
Well, luckily Ben also understands where I'm coming from. I'm tired of hearing myself talk about knotweed, but it is a real problem. All right, well then, in that case, if somebody wants to roll, or should I make my own motion? I make you guys do it all the time.
Go for it, Brian. Let her rip.
Yeah, so let's issue an order of conditions on this with a special condition.
We have to vote to close the hearing first.
Oh.
Or with it, just so you know.
Yeah, we'll do that too. I just wanted to make sure I got my
Okay.
my language correct. So, but you're right. So with let's have I'd make a motion to close the hearing, do this in order, and then issue an order of conditions with a special condition specifying that the Japanese knotweed is to be addressed specifically in the construction management and removed prior to the, not removed, to be demonstrated as being effectively controlled and or managed prior to the issuance of a COC. How about that? They get it
Yeah,
all?
or we could ask them to just
The-
provide a knotweed control plan as part of the
I
pre-construction.
mean, sure.
requirements.
Yeah. I'm out of practice. I don't make motions.
I'll second Mary's amended motion.
Ooh. All right. Roll call. Ben,
Yes.
Daniel,
Yes,
Mary,
Yes,
and I will also vote yes. All right, great. So George, you're all set. Thank you for coming tonight and helping us out. And Sam can fill you in on how the paperwork will flow.
Well, I
Good luck with your
appreciate it, guys.
project.
And for those Celtic fans, they're doing amazing in the first half. So those that aren't watching the game, I'm sorry. I keep hawking over my shoulder here. Outstanding first half. Thank you for your time tonight. Appreciate it, guys.
good luck with your project.
Good luck, George.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you.
guys.
I have to agree with George. We're having an outstanding first half. We're doing great, guys. We're moving along on a real clip here. All right, next thing we have up, we have Gage Foley at 7 Bittersweet with no DEP number quite yet. This is a notice of intent for the construction of a new single-family home with septic and associated site work continued from March 1st. Sam, what's the story?
We do have Tom here. I don't know if he's, oh. There we go, there he is.
Yes, I actually emailed in a continuance request on this because we don't have the DEP file number. We have now gotten the 4 consecutive days of no flow, and I've just sent the updated wetland flag information over to the engineer. He's still working on adjusting the septic, so we're going to be coming in with a plan, getting the DEP file number, and hopefully we'll be able to move forward on this at the next meeting.
Okay, sounds like a plan.
Make a motion
may I
to
presume
continue to
that's-
May 17th.
second,
Good. I didn't know if Tom formally requested that or if he was planning on it. But I'll take that. We have a first. Who's gonna second? Point
Dan
off.
seconded.
Nice one. So roll call, Ben,
Yes.
Dan,
yes,
Mary,
Yes,
and I will also vote yes. So we'll see this one at the next meeting. Next up, Tom, I feel like these are all yours coming up. Ben Laguerre, 10 10th Street, DEP number 050-1378. A notice of intent to replace a 2-story single-family home on the existing lot, one of which was destroyed by fire, with new single-family homes constructed on piles. Also continued from March 1st.
Right. We also requested, we have a zoning board hearing coming up, and we have requested a continuance to your next meeting just to get past that zoning meeting. But we have submitted updated plans as well. So I sent in an email requesting the continuance, but I might as well just ask you for a continuance right now.
You know, Tom, if you're gonna make this all go so smooth and flowing, you need to get the flow through decking background, not this hardscaping.
Well, you see what that's doing? That's creating an educational area for little children to sit down on benches in the middle of a wetland and go down
Oh.
like samples.
Uh,
Isn't that nice?
Sure is.
or where the parents fall through the decking when they're chasing their
Oh.
kids.
Right.
You need
Well,
a
school
bronze
teachers,
sculpture.
this is an elementary school in Needham.
Well,
I'd
I
make a
will move
motion to continue to May 17th.
second.
Thank you, Ben. Ben, you just seconded that, right?
Did.
Good, thank you. All right, roll call, Ben,
Yep.
Dan,
yes, yes,
and Mary.
Yes.
All right, thank you. I also vote yes. Tom is now showing off all of his decking. All right, so then, and finally, we have David Manty, 0 Pine Island Road, Lot 5, DEP number 050-1330. A notice of intent to construct a dock / pier and ramp. Loading dock was in Salt Marsh Resource Area and ACEC. Continued from the February 1st meeting. Also continued from the March 1st meeting. Huh. Anyway. All right, Tom, what's the update here?
So we sent in a plan, but it came in at 4 o'clock today. Sam being traveling, I felt like the right thing to do was just continue it to the next meeting to give you guys enough time to actually receive the plan, look at it, think about it, and then we plan on coming into the next meeting.
Move to
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank
so
you,
we've
Tom.
asked for a continuance to the next meeting.
Okay.
Move
like
to
Dan hasn't made a motion.
May 17th.
Second.
Oh, Dan, you slipped by on this one too. All right, roll call. Benjamin,
Yes.
Daniel,
Yes.
and then Mary.
Yes.
Okay, I will also vote yes. Thank you, Tom. That's the fastest 3 projects you've ever done.
Thank you.
That might be a new land speed record. All right, great. So then we are through that list. That's awesome. So then we have under discussion, we have an enforcement issue with Michael Hathaway at 48 Green Street. This is a notice of potentially unpermitted work discovered by DEP, including vegetation clearing and construction within BBW areas and associated buffer zones and riparian zones. Tom, this is the same theme I believe you were talking about before, right? You're muted too.
I'm sorry, were you just talking to me? Or-
Yeah.
Oh,
This is the Hathaway.
Yeah, you're doing.
oh, yes, yes.
Right?
So I'm not sure if Mike is on, but.
He is under Andrea's iPad. That's Mike.
Oh, okay. So I've talked to Mike. I understand you guys did a site visit, and I have looked at the area, and it looks to me that there's no apparent wetland fill. It's definitely very close to wetlands, and we're in the process of proving the stream for the other project to be not perennial, which would mean it's not riverfront, and the work is fairly old. So I believe it qualifies under the statute of limitations. However, there are definitely some areas of improvement, some things that need to happen. I believe there's some piles of fill outside the riding ring. And I understand the commission looked at some other areas of the site. So what Mike and I have talked about is I'll work with him to come up with a sort of an improvement plan to get rid of that fill around the riding ring, and you know, the piles that were placed outside the riding ring, and work on things like the compost pile. And I think there might have been a couple other things during your site visit that you guys noted. So I wanted to hear what your concerns were, and then Mike and I can work together to get you guys a sort of restoration or property sort of more sensitive management plan for the other items.
Okay, great. Thanks, Tom. Ben, you missed this one. That's all right. Dan, you were there. You got anything on your mind?
No, I mean, I think one thing Tom referred to was that sort of compost area, and I would think just having some sort of continued maintenance of the silt sock in that area would kind of help things out.
Okay.
Mary?
I would just suggest that since Sam hasn't seen the site, that you walk it with Tom and just come up with a plan together for what should, be done. And then maybe Tom can just submit a, sort of a letter response saying, we're going to do this, this, and this by a certain date. I agree that the fill around the round pen probably should be taken out, that's very close, or if not in the wetland. And the compost pile is very close to the wetland, and I think the silt sock needs to be moved closer to the compost pile because it's in the wetland where it is now. And there's probably been some cutting in the wetland to put the sock in place. So I think just, reestablishing maybe with some kind of permanent markers, where that boundary is so that we can make sure that there's not any further intrusion. And I think, with a couple of measures in place, we can address the issues. I'm comfortable with the explanation about the field being a former field that was essentially, not really forested, but sort of just overgrown, and that might renovated the field. I think that there might have been some trees taken down, but it wasn't a wholesale clearing of trees. So I don't feel, Sam, that the stormwater bylaw would necessarily apply in that case. It doesn't sound like it would. And the barn, clearly that was constructed with a building permit. So I don't have anything to say about that. So really just those two areas were my main concern. And then there was an area where there's some equipment that has to traverse across a little bit of wetland to get to different parts of the farm. And there might be some kind of measures you can use to minimize some impact from that as well.
Okay,
Look at that, Tom.
Yep. Yeah, and on the compost area, one of the things that I talked to Mike about, I want to look at it in the field, but we may be able to put like a small berm between the field and the resource area as a sort of physical demarcation, and possibly scratch out in the ground and put like a little, almost like a sand filter just down 6 inches, just something so that the runoff has something to trap it and infiltrate it. And and that might be better than a filter sock that needs maintenance.
And when do you think you could have that done by? So we can add it to another agenda at some point.
Well, I'd like to actually, depends on Sam's schedule next week, but I think when she gets back, if we can try to schedule something for like mid next week.
So we can put it on the June agenda?
Yeah, I think so. I think the 17th might be a little tight, but I think if we can get out there next week and then give Mike and I like a week or so to really gel it out and some of the things that I was looking at when I was looking at that area where those little fill piles are, I think the whole area is riddled with invasives, and I think just stabilizing it with a rapid seed mix would make some sense. And like I would just in this case refer to like just like the Dodges Agway local conservation mix, as opposed to dealing with like 50 square feet with a more special
something fast germinating and hardy.
Right. So but we'll look at that. I'll talk to Sam about it and then we'll write it up. And I think we can resolve this. I think, it's unfortunate some of this stuff did happen without permits, but it's old enough that I think we just need to clean up what's there and improve a little bit of the management. But overall, Mike's management of the property is pretty good.
Takes good care of the property.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, Tom, we should definitely, sorry. We should definitely be able to get out there next week, either like later in the day on Tuesday or on Wednesday or something. We could definitely get out there.
Okay, later in the day on Tuesday probably works for me. So if you do want to look at your schedule and email me a time?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, that'd be great.
My only comment might be a little on the technical side, because, to follow up with Mary's point about the erosion control, that compost might make for a good barrier, but what is that compost made out of, in the sense of, most of the erosion control compost might be a different blend, shall we say, than the one that is sitting out there. Mary and Tom especially, do you guys have any insight into the chemistry there on erosion control compost versus maybe a little more of a manure heavy compost, or
I don't know, Mike might have made those compost socks himself. Mike, are you there? Did you use your own material to fill those socks?
Good evening, guys. I am here. Those socks that are currently out there right now, those are just the regular straw wattles that we use
Oh,
them all
that's
the
right.
time. We use
Those
those.
straw wattles, yeah.
We use them regularly on our projects that we do, and we always bring them back. And there was no great effort on those out there. I was always that's where I always brought them to when I was done with them, to just let them do what they're doing out there. It's just an area. I always knew I was kind of close to the edge, and I just always put them back there to make sure we always maintained a kind of delineation there. It was never there because of any major, there's really never any runoff back there that's no big silt migration or anything like that. I just always kind of put them there as a barrier, just a mental note thing for myself and my couple guys, and just make sure nothing goes any further. But I actually have the equipment. We've done Mass DOT projects. I have the equipment to make the mulch socks, the fabric socks with the mulch blown into them. We do those for projects, and I actually have a couple thousand feet of sock in stock right now. I've got an 18-inch sock right now. So, I mean, we could very simply put something like that out there, or Tom and I spoke earlier about the berm idea, or vegetated berm. That's something I'd be open to. My other thought is where the pile is now, I've always actually kind of kicked around the idea of, the stone I have on the other side of my little cart path there. I was contemplating moving the stones that I stockpile for various reasons to where the compost is, and actually moving the compost to the left side there. That would push it probably another 30 feet away. That was another thing I was kind of thinking about. But the compost that we do produce, again, we have horses, so we have the horse manure. It comes hand in hand. But I do take and make sure I mix at least 70% of that pile is just leaf mold. So the manure is, I know, high in nitrogen and everything else, but the leaf mold has the ability to retain a lot of that and really tempers it down. And again, we use the compost very regularly, so it's as much as we produce, it's always leaving as well. So it's not just a forever growing pile out there. It's really a great product. We use it all the time. So, but
okay. So yeah, that might be part of the strategy, is just replace some of that straw wattle with some of the compost on site. That might work out.
I think we need a permanent solution as well, just if it's going to be within 50 feet of the wetland.
Yeah, that's why I was thinking the vegetative berm, because even though it's going to be retaining a lot of the nutrients, if we can get any nutrients that do leave the pile to infiltrate as opposed to flow, I think that's a big thing. Relocating the pile. I mean, Mike and I can work on a concept that works. Obviously, we don't want to have something that doesn't flow with how Mike manages the property. So we'll work all that out, talk about it with Sam, and then put it all in writing. And if necessary, I can mark up an aerial photograph or something with various aspects, get you a package.
Thanks.
And then the other question or comment I had was that, Tom, at the beginning, you mentioned that the ring was not in a wetland. And is that something that you just did with mapping, or did you take some cores and, look at the soil, or?
Well, so having delineated the adjacent site and looking at the vegetation that's growing immediately around the ring, there's a lot of multiflora, a lot of bittersweet, and the topographic break, it is right up, 2 feet from the wetland, probably, from the edge. It's right there, but it certainly appears to be out. I did not do any cores because it's just a real quick demarcation line where it just drops right off. And then those piles of sort of sandy material are sitting on that 2-foot shelf or 3-foot shelf right next to the ring. On one side, it's real high and it's upland all around the ring, but on the other side, it really does drop right off to what is currently sort of part of an area with intermittent standing water and, you know, lots of red maples and, you know, it's a good,
Right.
you know,
Right.
good woodland right there.
I'm thinking the DEP sort of brought this to the table, and you know, if we don't give them a little more hard data, they might ask us to, you know, in a manner of speaking, do it again.
Right. Yeah, I mean, we can look at what we can include in the package to kind of show where the resources are in relation to these three areas that we've discussed, and note that there was a site visit made, and you know, so I'm sure we can do something along those lines. It's I mean, I think DEP looked at this because they were looking at how the resources on 7 Bittersweet, you know, things like a USGS map that shows a stream that really doesn't exist in anything like what's mapped. And I think they were doing sort of more investigative work as to what changed. And on my other client's site, they saw nothing, but on this site, they saw these things appear over the years. But again, most of this was significantly long ago, that if there's no riverfront area, there's a statute of limitations that would prevent it from being an issue anyway. But we'll include that in the report. And if the commission thinks it's necessary for me to flag the nearest areas, I can do it, but it's pretty straightforward where it would go.
Okay. Well, sounds like you've got a plan. Any more comments? Any comments from the public? Anything from anybody else? Looks like there's nobody here except us. All right.
I would just say, Tom, that we continue this out to, well, I guess we're not really continuing, but I mean, I don't see like Murray, did you have some pressing need to see this resolved by the 17th, or are you okay if this takes a little bit longer?
No, I was just saying, you know, let us know what agenda to put it back on. You know, let's pick a date. And I agree the 17th is too quick probably, but the June meeting, maybe that we revisit this and see where we're at and if we've made some progress.
Right. I think the June.
Sounds like, you know, Mike has been very cooperative through the process, and, you know, I don't see any reason to issue enforcement or anything like that. It's just, but we do want to keep it moving.
Yep.
I think the June meeting is fine. And, you know, after the meeting with Sam, if we have questions that we think we need the commission's input on, we'll either do it through Sam or we'll come back at the 17th for just a quick discussion. But I think we should be able to get you a plan of action by the meeting in June, and then give you an idea of how long it will take to implement that.
Great.
Okay. In that case, anybody want to make a motion to that effect? Oh, good. Do we not need a motion?
It's not a hearing, so I don't think we need one. Yeah.
All right. So then, good. Thanks, Tom.
You're welcome.
See you next time.
Now, can I just move to adjourn, or do one of you guys probably has to? do? All right.
We're not done yet.
One
Not
more
yet.
thing.
Almost.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think I'm done with you guys. So thank you.
Have a good night.
Take
Have
care.
a good night, Tom.
Good night.
Good night to Mike.
No, thank you, guys. And I was just gonna say myself, just whenever Tom and Samantha, you guys come up with a time you like to meet, feel free to just give me a shout. I'd be glad to meet you guys out here.
Yeah, we'll do.
So, very good.
All
Thank
right.
you, guys.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good night.
Under other business, we have Newberry Town Day. I don't know if anybody else got this email, but I got it, and I passed it along to Sam to put it on the agenda. There is a Newberry Town Day on Saturday, June 18th, and representatives of various town boards have been asked if they would like to show up and sort of rep their board. And so the first question is, do we want to send a Concom rep? And if we do, who's interested?
So I actually,
Where do you send them?
just to give everybody a heads up on what this involves. So at first, when I was kind of looking at it, I thought that it was maybe that they were having like board and committee members come in and like talk about what they do. That is not the case. I guess this is the first time that they are doing this. I talked to one of our senior volunteers that comes in and works with the town clerk about it. Basically, they're looking for people to come volunteer to help out, to work the event. So I think they're very specifically looking for town board and committee members, probably to kind of give everybody an opportunity to do a little bit extra. But it's not like, it's not to kind of do a plug for the Conservation Commission. Like, we're not going to have a table or anything. We're just volunteering to, I would assume, do like setup and breakdown and things like that.
Where are they having it?
I don't remember where it's going to be located. I can't remember. I don't know if it actually said where it was going to be yet. I don't know if they know.
You heard
but it
about
does,
this,
it does sound like it sounds pretty cool. They said that even as a non-resident, I was allowed to come and volunteer, so I will probably be there. But I think we just have to let them know if we're going to have anybody there, and I can shoot them an email and let them know if any of you guys are interested, how many we have.
So Sam, I think, I misunderstood that email the way that you did. So thanks for that clarification. Do you think you could find out maybe what we're being asked for so that we know what we're signing up for? If
yeah.
we do, like to say I'll show up and then end up stuck there for 8 hours, behind the French fry machine,
Right.
might not be something I'm going to do,
Yeah, I can reach out. I think I don't remember who they said. I thought it was maybe Heidi Fram was.
There's a website now. I'm looking it up.
Yeah.
You can look up Newberry Town Day 2022, and it's being held at multiple places throughout the town. And they're looking for volunteers. And it's sort of a promote Newberry kind of day. So there's a cookbook
so
too.
this is less of a board decision, more of an individual thing then.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Okay.
kind of the idea that I got was that it was like a way to get people together in a non-political sense, to kind of all hang out and have a nice.
There's family fitness fun at the Spencer Pierce Little Farm. There's a cardboard boat regatta on the river. There's police and fire station tours, vintage baseball at Spencer Pierce Little, Saturday
Cardboard
sandwiches,
boat
Boy
I'm
Scout
in.
breakfast, landmarks, music at the Byfield Community Center, stuff on the Lower Green, open studio, story walk at Newberry Library, historic New England open houses, stories for children, Newberry Trolleys Talk, historic talk, New England's first flying field at the Plum Island Airport. So, good stuff. Thanks for passing that on, Sam.
Yeah, I'm already looking at the cardboard boat regatta. That's going on the calendar.
Yeah, and I can reach out to the people who are in charge of it and see, what the volunteering entails, like what kind of jobs they're looking at people having, and get back in touch with you guys about it. If anybody's interested in learning more about that.
Okay, and then just because we have done a fantastic job with timing, Sam, is there anything sort of conservation office updates that you can give us in, like a synopsis view? Anything we need to be kept up on?
Not really a whole lot that I can think of. We have getting more of an influx of of submittals coming in as of late, a lot more new stuff. Most of it seems like it's pretty small projects like generator installations and things like that. But yeah, stuff is definitely coming in more now that we're getting out of the frozen ground months. But not really a whole lot going on. All of the piping clover monitoring has started. So yeah, that's all I got.
Okay. Okay.
Bossy Ibis showed up.
Who just showed up?
What?
Bossy Ibis
Oh, ooh.
hanging out on Newman Road, where I usually don't see them. And a new place for me to see them.
I went by them today. They were yeah, there were some weird birds out there today.
Saw them earlier in the week in Ipswich, yeah. Just so you know, Brian, I will
All right.
not be at the next meeting, May 17th. I'm not going to be able to make it. So hopefully Peter will be here.
Yeah.
Sounds
well,
like
in that
Frank is
case-
done now. Is he finished?
I have not gotten anything official from him. I think he's still kind of trying to make that decision, but he has not. I need to get something official in writing from him before I can say that he's officially done. And I have not
Right.
gotten it yet. So
Right. So Sam and all of our listeners on our Newberry Access channel, with Mary not being here and Pete, maybe, that we've got a quorum problem here. We're gonna be running out of people kind of quick, and I know Ben and Dan are both chomping at the bit to be done too. So, how do we flail for people?
if anybody happens to be interested in volunteering to join the Conservation Commission, you can send letters of interest into the select board, and the select board will go through their process to kind of invite people to volunteer and get that process going, and get people appointed. So shoot an email to the select board admin assistant, Julie O'Brien. Her email is on the town website, and she would be the person to get in touch with to forward your letters of interest on, because I know so many people are super, super interested in joining the Conservation Commission. It's a bucket of fun. I
Hey.
love it.
Hey, no, you were doing great. You were a perfect infomercial until the asterisk kicked in there. Yeah, and maybe when you do the sandwich board about the bylaw update, you can put that at the bottom. Also, please join. All right. Well, then, unless anybody else has anything they are dying to talk about, or if we want to just admire Daniel's haircut for a little while.
Move to adjourn.
It's not going to be good. It's just going to go haywire again.
You're like a little baby lamb, just in time for Easter. Shorn.
Anyways, I'm going to move to adjourn and move to wish Sam
Yes.
a good rest of the week.
I second Dan's motion.
All right, very good. Dan, you look beautiful. Roll call vote. Benjamin.
My best Pete Pecos. Yes.
Well done. Pete will appreciate that we remember him in these ways. Daniel.
Certainly.
and Mary, with your best
Yes.
Peter Pecos impersonation.
I can't. No one can do it.
No one does it like Pete does.
Yep.
All right, I will also vote in the affirmative. Hey, nice job, guys. That was really
Good work.
effective.
Cleared the decks pretty well. Okay.
Yep. Evening, y'all.
Evening.
Let us
Good
know
night.
when we
Good
need to
night.
sign stuff, Sam.
I will.
Okay, thanks. Bye.